Hello, my beautiful souls. This is 10, and you're listening to Tenebris 8. Now, as you know from the show, if you've been listening for a while, I'm often, I hate to admit this, but this is literally the only time I can actually work on these episodes is really literally while I'm driving. And I'm slowly improving what I can. And what I mean by that, I mean like, oh, wow, it's a really slow growth here, right? But overall, like, this isn't really like a place for you to come for healing. It's a collective dialogue overall. Like, I see it, like, you know how like people do, I call it like a collective message overall, but I'm also too kind of labeling it with the seriousness of it. Really, it's not, like, I'm not here to fix you. I'm not here to solve your problems. I'm just, the divine source talks to me, and sometimes I really appreciate what they have to tell me, and then sometimes I'm like you, where I'm like, I don't want to hear this, this is stupid, this is boring, this is hard, I don't care. This is really just a place for us to, figure shit together, I guess. So I'm not an LMHT, I'm not a doctor, not a financial legal advisor. All choices are your own. You have this beautiful thing called free will, whether you like it or not. And I think that is certainly okay. And we as witches, we as pagans, we as whatever we are, whether you're Christian, whether you're an atheist, we all have to kind of consider the fact that we have to be accountable to ourselves. And I think that is certainly the hardest thing to do, whether it's emotionally, whether it's for your mental well-being, whether it's spiritually, whether it's just, trying to find meaning in the world and living life accordingly to integrity, to something beyond yourself, right? It is. I will give you that. It's really hard. It is, because you have to be alert and awake, breathing, doing the next best thing, as I like to say sometimes to myself, most certainly. And so I feel like trying my best has actually been what has gotten me to this point in my life, right? It has. I'm doing better. And I'm not saying this to be egotistical. I'm not saying this to be mean. I'm not saying this because I'm better than you, because I'm not. I'm most certainly not. But I'm doing better than I know, like, I'm doing better emotionally than some other people are doing. I see it. And I really do put that on the fact that I have always been a spiritual person since age 13. I remember at a very young age, kind of wanting to be better than where, being who I am now, and feeling this sense of purpose, of love, of being surrounded by divine light. I couldn't always articulate what I was going through, what I was experiencing, but I knew I was loved. Even when I didn't feel loved by humans, I knew I was loved by the divine source, by angels. One of my earliest memories is of an angel. Like, I kid you not. Like, I remember her just comforting me with light, and she was beautiful, and she's saying, it's gonna be okay, girly. I mean, not in those words, but if I had to translate my adult language, it'd be, you're gonna be okay, girly. And so this is a good segue to what we're going to be talking about, which is the number 67. Right now, 67 has been a very big deal for me. It's been a big deal since, this number came into my life maybe 7-10 years ago, where I had a dream that there was a lot of chaos going on. There was this hurricane that or hurricane or tornado that came through, right? And everyone's cars were everywhere. It was just chaos. And then I looked on the ground, because I was still fine. I was just moving. I was not in a car, and yet still I'm walking this road, and I'm still safe. And I see the number 67 in yellow on the road. And something in me told me that was the divine source telling me, you are always going to be safe. There'll be chaos all around you, but you will always be safe, my lovely, beautiful soul. You will be safe. We will look after you because you are one of our own. You were put on this planet for a reason. You have a purpose. And when you have these kind of dreams that pop up every now and then, because they do pop up for me, these divine source type dreams that come in and say wonderful, delightful, beautiful things, it gives you a sense of hope for the world. Because there has to be a good reason. There has to be a good reason behind all of it. And I'm not saying like, oh, like my life has been perfect, like nothing bad has happened. No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that, you know, that it has all had a purpose. It's all led to something greater than the last previous moment. And so I was driving, right? Because I was driving. I wasn't on my phone. I was actually paying attention. I was doing what I was supposed to do, right? Which is stay off my phone and look around, do all this stuff. And I had this random thought go in my head about 67 because I had been having it in my head for some weird reason. I was thinking, you know what? If 67 means to me, like, I'm always going to be safe, then does that include the planet? Like I know there's a lot of stuff going on with the planet, right? In so many different ways, but there's like global warming stuff going on, you know, like there's this, you know, there's a big amount of fear going on with the world where, you know, people are afraid that this planet, we might die, you know, and this planet will, you know, take it with it, you know? And I said, you know what? It's probably actually someone's going to do something wonderful and amazing, and they're going to save us, save the planet. They're going to, you know, create some technology, or they're going to do something incredible where the planet will be saved. And global warming they'll buy us a shit ton of time, you know, another additional 50 to 100 years. The problem will get solved. Hip, hip, hooray! And so I stop at the spot where I'm supposed to stop. I look around, I'm making sure I'm okay, and then I move, and this red car honks at me. Because this is a weird intersection where there's only 2 stop signs. One where I'm at and across from me. And then the other 2 don't. They have the right of way. It's a really weird situation. And then if you have a blind spot on that intersection, it's worse. Because there is a blind spot. And so I'm like, oh shit. Because I usually roll a little bit and then I don't go right away. That's the only time I didn't go right away. And it's this red car who's mad he didn't get his right of the way. He stopped. I was safe, right? And it's now the color red and blue has been popping up a lot lately, right? Red in this case is impatient. It is like, how dare you not give me my right of way? How dare you? And yet he still did the right thing. He didn't plow through me. I was safe, right? And number 67, right? You're safe, girly. There's a lot of stuff going on around you, but you're still safe, girl. Doesn't matter. And you know, we often kind of like live our lives like something bad could happen at any given moment. And I think that's kind of sad. We can't live our lives like that. Like, yes, we need to process. We need to understand things. Yes, we need to do things. Sometimes we have to take action, you know, to protect our world and things like that. But sometimes we can't constantly live in a fear state, because if you I like to write stories, and I was creating this scene where someone was commenting to her about, you know, because she had been injured, and they were saying like, you know, most people when they get injured, they don't just go into like to the in-between and put themselves in more further harm risk by, because you could meet a demon or something, blah blah blah. And he's commenting about that, and she said, well, you know, because he said most would just panic and make things worse. And she was like, you know what, but panic is actually a great way to die. I want you to sit with that. Panic is a great way to die. And they kind of have this conversation a little bit for a little while where she doesn't see a purpose behind panicking. It's just like, I could panic. I could, but I don't really think that's helpful for me. I don't think it'll help me at all. And I think this character that I'm working on, it's fan fiction, by the way. I'm not going to give you a lot of details about the fan fiction because, but this character that I'm creating, it's not that she doesn't have negative feelings. It's just that because she doesn't have the luxury of panic. She even comments that, safety is a luxury, So she also too has this sense of the fact she has these held on beliefs that are about her world that may or may not be helpful and supportive for her. But one of her strengths is she doesn't like to panic. She just, this needs to be done. I'm gonna go take care of it. I'm bleeding out. I'm gonna find a way to survive. I do not have time to panic. I need to stay focused. And panic takes away your ability to focus. It takes your ability to live inspired. It takes your ability to have life quality. It takes away from who you are. It takes your joy out of the equation. And I'm not saying like you're not gonna have panic. I'm not saying like things are not like, you're not gonna struggle at it. But you need to understand that being in a fear state will just make things worse. And somehow, in some kind of way, you do need to find a way to wiggle your way to a better feeling state. And this is where it's okay to get a little frustrated. It's okay to get a little angry. Because I used to work in the mental health field. I used to tell people these sort of things. And very often I was told that I was being invalidating, that I didn't know what they were going through. I've heard it all. And I'm not, I get it. We all need to be validated, but we all also too need to have a healthy dose of reality testing in order to grow. Because if you are looking for safety, if you're looking for easy, then you can stay in a panic state. You can stay in a numb state. You can definitely, certainly continue to do what you're doing because it'll give you a sense of what to expect from yourself and from the world. However, though, you're not really actually going to change things effectively with that approach. We all need to be reality tested by the divine source. I mean, that's why some of us go into therapy but therapists are really good at doing it the gentle way. I think that's kind of why when I was young, people didn't like to be around me and didn't like hearing what I had to say. I've gotten, actually, believe it or not, I'm a lot more gentler than I used to be. I do say things. If you think this is harsh, you should have heard me when I was in my 20s. I was a lot harsher about this because I would just say it. And it would be like, okay, well, you know what? You sitting on your bed watching TV, doing it for weeks on end. I would have said that. I would have been like, you know what? You need to get off the couch. If you're going to at least walk, if you're going to, you might as well just take your phone, go outside, and get some sunlight and watch it out there. Because at the very least, you're getting vitamin D. At the very least, you're getting fresh air. And you might actually be tempted to move around a little bit, and I wouldn't even be asking a lot. I'd be saying, you have to at least do a little. Like, you can't just not do a little, right? Because if you're not even doing a little bit, you're not going to want to do more. And if you're not going to want to do more, you're going to stay exactly where you are. And I have this term that is very offensive, but I'm going to say it. Numb and dumb. And I will say this to myself. I'm like, do you want to stay numb and dumb? Do you want to stay numb and dumb? Because if you're going to stay numb and dumb, go ahead and do it. Just do it. And I'll get mad. And I'm like, I don't want to be numb and dumb. That's stupid. Yeah, you're right. It's stupid. So what are you going to do about it? And I'm like, well, you know what? I want to write. I really do. But all I want to do right now is fan fiction and poetry. Okay, well then go do your poetry then. You're at least moving. You're moving from that spot to the table and writing, and you're getting your feelings out in a positive way. You're drinking water because you got up. You're now stimulating your stomach, which is making you hungry, making you feel your feelings. Oh, now you're moving. Now you drank water. Now you're peeing. Now you need more water. Now you need more calories to sustain yourself. Now you're thinking, your brain is getting activated. Good. You're not so numb and dumb. And by the way, 67 just popped up again. You're not going to stay numb and dumb if you get out of a fear state, because very often when we get stuck and trapped in the same thing over and over again where we don't want to do anything, it's because we are so afraid of doing something. Oops, sorry guys, I gotta fix this. Oh my god. Right? You're so afraid of doing something. Let's sit with that. Let's really sit with that. We're so afraid that, and I think, there is definitely a fear of failure in doing something. You can't live like that forever. You cannot live like that forever, because if you're living like that dream life you want, that's, that could eventually be in your grasp, can't ever even get an inch near your nose. Or even if it's an inch near your nose, you're not going to see it. You're not going to go for it. It's like, oh, it's right there, go for it. And you don't do it. You don't do it. I am getting to that point where it's time to wrap up and finish up. And I get it. I do get it. I wouldn't be saying this stuff if I didn't get it. I worked in the mental health field, and I saw what happens to people when all they want to do is stay in bed all day. I saw what happened to people when they get trapped in their minds. I've been there too. It's why I went to the mental health field, and why I left the mental health field was because something in me, since I was a little girl at age 13, didn't want to stay the same. I didn't want to be numb and dumb. So you gotta want something more than being numb and dumb. You gotta. All right. So love and light, marry me, blessed be, amen to good health. And I do genuinely wish you very well. I'm not here to offend you. I'm here to stimulate that brain of yours. If you see anything you like, please, like, comment, subscribe. Every little bit counts. At some point, I'm going to have my brain stimulated long enough to put down the donation thingy down below. So if you see these episodes and you're like, she's talking about it, but I don't see it, it's only a matter of time. This is my hobby, and it's also too my way of getting I'm stimulating my brain so I can actually write. And it's actually working. I'm stimulating my brain, so I'm doing my poetry again. It's very nice. I'm actually working on another poetry book, by the way. It's going to be very spiritual. It's aimed towards like the messy part of life. Even like you could be really just sad and depressed and still be very spiritual. It's kind of like that, but there's also some happy aspects of it. Like there's parts of it where I feel great, and I'm like, I'm connected to the divine source. Everything is going to be okay. Everything is going to work out, right? I know this for a fact, kind of thing. And so I've been working on it, and I love what I have so far. But I'll be honest with you, the only reason it's happening is I'm stimulating my brain. I'm doing something instead of nothing. I refuse to be numb and dumb. All right, and I will let you go. All right, toodaloozies, adios, my meatballs to be for realsies. Do 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 do.